After watching this, you'll immediately understand the meaning of a simple truth. Standing up for yourself feels terrifying until you finally do it. Then you wonder why you waited so long. Let me tell you about Chloe Sanders. 22 years old. Works full-time at a marketing firm. Pays her rent. Does her share. Lives quietly. But she lives with Vanessa Cole. And Vanessa is a walking contradiction. You know the type. She'll leave her dog's muddy paw prints across the floor, but God forbid you leave a water bottle on the counter. She'll let trash pile up, but somehow you're the problem if you forget to wipe the stove once. Chloe had been tolerating it for months. The messes, the passive-aggressive sighs, the reminder texts that felt more like warnings. Not because she was a pushover, but because peace, or at least the illusion of it, was easier than conflict. Until it wasn't. It all started with a message. Chloe was at work. Deadlines, client calls, her usual chaos. Her phone buzzed. Vanessa. Long message. Not a conversation. Not a friendly nudge. It was a checklist. A literal list of things Chloe was apparently failing at. Wipe the stove after every use. Put drinks away, even if you plan to finish them later. Empty the dishwasher before she needs it. Keep the counters clear. Decorly, as she so kindly reminded, like they were living in a showroom. Oh, and the cherry on top. Vanessa proudly announced she had cleaned oil and asparagus out of the trash. Like it was some grand act of service. Chloe stared at the screen. Was this a joke? This woman, who couldn't even be bothered to pick up after her own dog, was lecturing her on household maintenance. For a moment, Chloe considered letting it go. She always did. But something about the tone, the condescension, the sheer hypocrisy. It hit differently this time. She took a breath and replied, I got your message. I understand being overwhelmed, but the way you delivered that was unnecessary. I've been cleaning up after you and your dog more than you probably realize. If we're going to start keeping tabs, I'll stop cleaning up your messes too. Your burnout isn't my responsibility. We both live here. And I shouldn't have to walk on eggshells or be guilt-tripped just for existing. Send. It was polite, firm, honest. But to Vanessa it was treason. The reply came fast. You're overreacting. I'm just asking you to pick up after yourself. Stop being a little girl about it. And that was it. The match had been lit. That evening, Chloe walked into their shared apartment and found Vanessa waiting. Arms crossed. Eyes narrowed. What's your problem? Vanessa snapped. Chloe, tired from a full day of work and now this unnecessary drama, stayed calm. I don't have a problem. I just don't appreciate being talked down to. The conversation spiraled. Vanessa twisted Chloe's words, accused her of being delusional, claimed Chloe was making things up. Gaslighting at its finest. And Chloe, she snapped. I've been cleaning up your crap for months, Vanessa. The dishes, the trash, your dog's accidents. I've handled it without a word. But the one time you wipe a stove, you act like you're the queen of clean and send me a checklist like I'm your maid. Vanessa's face flushed. You're a bit. And Chloe, pushed past her breaking point, fired back. So are you. Silence. Heavy. Unforgiving. Chloe regretted the word the second it left her mouth. Not because Vanessa didn't deserve a reality check, but because Chloe knew she was better than that. The next day she sent an apology. Not a groveling one. A real one. Vanessa, I shouldn't have called you that. That crossed the line. I'm sorry for the name calling. But I stand by what I said about boundaries and respect. I'm not going to keep arguing. All I want is for us to live respectfully in this space. That's all. Simple. Sure. But Vanessa, she chose violence. Her reply was a wall of text, each line more venomous than the last. You fucked up real bad. You're going to want to bite your tongue next time, little girl. You crossed the line beyond my boundaries. Keep your apology and stick it up your ass, delusional bitch. Don't stop going to therapy either. Chloe read it twice. And then, something inside her shifted. Not fear. Not guilt. But clarity. She had been so busy trying to keep the peace. She hadn't realized she was the only one trying. Vanessa wasn't interested in peace. She was interested in control. And Chloe was done playing that game. She sat back, stared at her phone and smiled. Not because the situation was funny, but because the spell had been broken. There was no going back to keeping quiet. She was done walking on eggshells. It was time to set real boundaries. For the first time, Chloe didn't feel scared to stand her ground. She felt free. You know what drives controlling people absolutely crazy? When you stop giving them your energy. That's exactly what Chloe decided to do. After Vanessa's vicious text, the insults, the little girl jabs, the therapy digs, Chloe didn't fire back. No angry paragraphs. No dramatic confrontations. Just silence. But here's the thing. To someone like Vanessa, silence isn't peace. It's war. For the first few days, Vanessa strutted around the apartment like she'd won. Loudly slamming cabinets. Passive-aggressive humming. Making phone calls just a little too close to Chloe's room, saying things like, "Some people are so immature they can't handle simple house rules." Chloe ignored it all. She did her work. She made her coffee. She folded her laundry. She didn't clean up Vanessa's dishes. She didn't take out Vanessa's trash. She didn't wipe up after Vanessa's dog. And you could see it gnawing at her. The apartment started to reflect the very mess Vanessa had been so quick to accuse Chloe of. The sink filled with Vanessa's dishes. The trash reeked, filled with Vanessa's takeout containers. Even the once pristine counters had crumbs and stains. Vanessa waited. Expected Chloe to cave. She always had before. But this time, nothing. Chloe wasn't being petty. She was being fair. For the first time, she was only cleaning up after herself. And that, my friends, is when the tables started to turn. One evening, Chloe came home to find Vanessa wiping down the counters. But this time she wasn't smug about it. She looked annoyed, flustered, almost embarrassed. It was a small, quiet victory. Lily, Chloe's best friend, called it the reverse Uno moment. You stopped feeding her power trip. Now she's flailing. Let her sit in her own mess, literally. But Vanessa wasn't done. One morning, Chloe woke up to a passive-aggressive sticky note on the fridge. Reminder. Shared spaces require shared effort. Chloe peeled it off, crumpled it, tossed it in the trash. Vanessa watched from the kitchen. Not a word was said. That silence. It was deafening. The more Chloe refused to react, the more Vanessa spiraled. She tried guilt-tripping. You know, it's really sad that I have to do everything myself now. Chloe smiled politely. That must be exhausting. Glad you understand how I've felt. She walked away before Vanessa could respond. That was new. Chloe had always stayed in the argument until it drained her dry. Not anymore. Vanessa tried one more classic move, playing the victim to mutual friends. But here's the thing. Chloe had receipts, texts, photos, full timeline of events. The people Vanessa tried to rally quickly realized they were hearing one side of a very skewed story. And without an audience, Vanessa's performance fell flat. At work, Chloe felt lighter. At home, the air was still tense, but it didn't suffocate her like before. Because the difference now. The weight wasn't hers to carry. Vanessa's tantrums were just noise. And Chloe had learned to turn down the volume. But of course, Vanessa couldn't leave it there. Control freaks rarely do. So she tried to pull one last card. Chore chart. Printed. Laminated. Color-coded. Like they were in a shared dorm, not two adults paying rent equally. Vanessa smugly pinned it to the fridge. This should help us stay on track. Chloe took one look at it and said, "Great. As long as it includes your dishes, your dog, and your messes too." For a moment, Vanessa looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. Because what she wanted was a system that punished Chloe and excused herself. But now there were eyes on both of them. The chart backfired. Badly. Because when held accountable, Vanessa's standards crumbled. She couldn't maintain the illusion. Chloe, on the other hand, just kept doing what she always had, her share. No more. No less. And in that simplicity she won. No raised voices. No dramatic speeches. Just quiet consistency. And it drove Vanessa insane. 'Cause people like her thrive on reaction. When you take that away, they're forced to face themselves. And often they don't like what they see. One evening, as Chloe cleaned up her own dishes and left Vanessa's untouched, there was a shift. Vanessa sighed. Real one. Not the performative, exaggerated kind, but the tired human kind. And without looking up, she said, I guess we've both been difficult. It wasn't an apology, but it was the closest Vanessa had come to admitting fault. Chloe didn't gloat. She didn't twist the knife. She simply nodded. We both live here. We both clean up after ourselves. That's all I ever wanted. Vanessa muttered a quiet, fine. And for once, it wasn't dripping with venom. It was just acceptance. Small victories. Not every war ends with a bang. Some end with a tired sigh and a reluctant agreement. But for Chloe, that was more than enough. Because she had reclaimed her space, her peace, and most importantly, her voice. You know what's funny? Most people think winning an argument means getting the last word. But sometimes the real win is realizing you no longer need to explain yourself. That's exactly where Chloe Sanders found herself. In the weeks after the chore chart debacle, the apartment settled into an uneasy but functional rhythm. Vanessa did her share mostly. Chloe did hers always. They didn't become best friends. They didn't suddenly bond over brunch and dog walking. But the screaming matches. The passive-aggressive sticky notes. A distant memory. Vanessa still had her moments. She would make snide comments, tiny little jabs, as if testing Chloe's patience. But Chloe had mastered the art of disengaging. Not with sarcasm. Not with pettiness. With indifference. And that was worse for Vanessa than any argument. One night, as Chloe was winding down after work, she got a message. From Vanessa. But this time it wasn't a checklist. It wasn't an accusation. It was this. Just so you know, I'll be having a few friends over Friday night. Shouldn't be too loud. Let me know if that's an issue. Simple. Polite. An actual heads up. Not a demand. Not a passive dig. It was small. But it mattered. Because for once, Vanessa wasn't assuming Chloe would clean up after her social life. She was acknowledging her presence. Her space. Chloe smiled. Not because they were friends, but because boundaries were being respected. Later that week, Chloe met up with Lily at their usual coffee spot. So, Lily said, sipping her latte, how's Her Royal Highness these days? Chloe laughed. Managing. We've reached a ceasefire. Lily raised an eyebrow. Ceasefire or actual peace? Chloe considered. Both. Because I stopped giving her the power to ruin my day. She can spiral all she wants. I'm not joining her. Lily nodded, approving. That's growth. You're finally acting like you pay rent there. And that hit differently. Because that's what it had been about all along. Chloe had been living in that apartment physically. But mentally, emotionally, she'd let Vanessa make it feel like she was a guest in her own home. No more. That evening, as Chloe cleaned up after herself, not Vanessa, she glanced at the fridge. The chore chart was still there. A quiet reminder of the battle they'd both lost, but also won in their own ways. Vanessa entered the kitchen. For a split second, Chloe braced for a comment. But Vanessa just nodded. How's work? Chloe blinked. Not sarcasm. Not bait. Just a normal question. Busy. But good. Vanessa grabbed a dish towel, wiped the counter, her mess for once, and added, That's good. And that was it. No forced bonding. No fake apologies. Just two adults coexisting. And in that moment, Chloe realized something important. She hadn't changed Vanessa. But she had changed the rules. By standing her ground, she had taught Vanessa how to treat her. Not with fear, but with respect. And that respect came not from yelling, not from fighting to win, but from quiet consistency. From walking the talk. From refusing to pick up what wasn't hers to carry. People like Vanessa rely on you to either submit or explode. Chloe had done neither. She had simply chosen herself. And that, in the end, was the real victory. A few days later, as Chloe was leaving for work, Vanessa called out from the kitchen. "Hey!" Chloe paused. "Thanks for being patient with me. I'm not great at this." It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was real. Chloe smiled. "I'm not great at it either." They weren't friends, but they were roommates. And now they were finally acting like it. Because boundaries, once set, have a funny way of teaching people how to meet you halfway. Without apology. Without war. Just respect. And sometimes that's the best ending you can ask for. Final moral message. Standing up for yourself is not the same as starting a fight. You don't have to match someone's disrespect to set a boundary. The moment you stop tolerating manipulation in silence, you teach people how to treat you, and reclaim your peace.